Let's solve quadratic equations by completing a square. First, let's just review the steps. So first, you need the quadratic equation in the form x squared plus bx equals c. Notice the coefficient of the x squared term must be 1 and the constant must be on the right side of the equation by itself. Once you have that, we're going to take b, which is the coefficient of the linear term, divide by 2, and then square the result. That result will be added to both sides. Because we are always squaring it, right? When you square something, it's always going to be positive. That's why we are adding it to both sides. Once we have done that, we can write the left side as a perfect square. Notice the b divided by 2, that is what's going to be inside the parentheses on the left side to make it a perfect square. On the right side, you'll just need to simplify. And then we can solve using the square root method, which is taking the square root of both sides, and then we will want to get x by itself. Let's do a couple of examples to see how this looks. So first, let's do a somewhat easy one where the coefficient of x squared is already 1. So x squared plus 6x plus 3 equals 0. Because a is already 1, we're going to start by moving the constant to the right side by subtracting 3 from both sides. So x squared plus 6x equals negative 3. Now I can divide b by 2 and square the value. We'll then add this to both sides. So b has a value of 6. Take 6 divided by 2, that gives us 3. When we square this, we get 3 squared, which is 9. The 9 is the value we're adding to both sides. So x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals negative 3 plus 9. All right, so remember that 3 is what we put in the parentheses on the left side. So on the left side, we have x plus 3 squared. There's our perfect square. And on the right side, we've simplified negative 3 plus 9 equals 6. So now we can use the square root method. If we square root both sides, the square root of x plus 3 squared is just x plus 3. And 6 is not a perfect square, nor does it contain one. So we just have plus or minus 6. Now we can write that as, to get x by itself, x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 6. We also could write that as two separate answers, x equals negative 3 plus 6 and x equals negative 3 minus 6. You have options there, either as one, the negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 6, or separate. Let's do another one that is a little more complicated. Solve 2x squared minus 10x plus 7 equals 0. Notice that the a value, right, the coefficient in front of x squared, is greater than 1. So the first thing we need to do is divide by 2 in order to get that coefficient to be 1. Math is about equality. If you divide that number by 2, everything gets divided by 2. So we end up with x squared minus 5x plus 7 over 2 equals 0. So again, we divide each term by 2. Now we have an a value of 1. So our next step is to get the constant on the right side. So to move a positive 7/2, we're going to subtract 7/2 from both sides. So I now have x squared minus 5x equals negative 7 over 2. We are now ready to divide b by 2, square it, and add it to both sides. So our b value, hopefully you recognize, is negative 5. So negative 5 over 2 squared equals 25 over 4. Keep in mind that b divided by 2 value, the negative 5 over 2, that's what we're going to want in our parentheses on the left side. So first, let's add 25 fourths to both sides. We get x squared minus 5x plus 25 fourths equals negative 7/2 plus 25 fourths. Now we are ready to write the left side as a perfect square. So that negative 5/2 is what's going to be inside the parentheses, because 25 fourths, the square root of that is 5/2. So x minus 5/2 squared equals negative 7/2 plus 25 fourths. Well, on the right side, we need to simplify. We need to add these fractions. And to add fractions, we need a common denominator. So between 2 and 4, our common denominator is 4. So negative 7/2 is the same as negative 14 over 4. When I put those two fractions together, negative 14 plus 25 is 11. So we get x minus 5/2 squared equals 11 fourths. Now, the left side is a perfect square. The right side is simplified. We are ready to solve using the square root method. So the square root of the left side is x minus 5/2. The square root on the right side is plus or minus the square root of 11/4. Now, recall that the square root of 4 is the same as 2. So the denominator here, because it's the square root of 11 over the square root of 4, we can rewrite that to just be x minus 5/2 equals plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. So that makes it look just a little bit prettier. So to solve to get x by itself, we add 5/2 to both sides. Now, there are 3 ways here that you can write it. The first is when we just add 5/2 to both sides. 5/2 plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. Or, because both of those denominators are 2, we can put those together as one fraction. 5 plus or minus square root of 11 all over 2. Or we can write them as 2 separate answers, right? 5 plus square root of 11 over 2 or 5 minus square root of 11 over 2.